It sounds almost a little bit too upbeat, that music, for tonight, as Rising's Open Cup run comes to an end here in Tukwila. This is the PHNX Rising post-game show. I'm Owen Evans. I'm joined today by Jake Anderson. We're here at Starfire Sports Complex. Rising falling 2-1. They took the lead at the end of the first half, but couldn't get over the line. In the end, it's a penalty for Seattle, followed up by an 88th minute winner for the hosts that sees them advance to the quarterfinal of the Open Cup, where they will face Sacramento Republic. Jake, where do we even begin?
It's a gut punch. It's heartbreaking. It's whatever verbiage you want to use to just say that fucking sucked. Like straight up. I mean, you go from halftime up 1-0, the energy, knowing that Seattle was going to come with everything they had in the second half, which they did.
They did.
John gives away the penalty. They converts 1-1, and we're approaching the 90. And I think we had all accepted, okay, we're going to get to extra time. We'll make the changes needed. And then as soon as that ball goes in, you just collectively, like, it was just everyone's heads just boom, just down. You got what, 7 minutes to go get an equalizer? And at that point, are you really expected to?
No.
Like we were talking about after the match, it was a game that was here for the taking. Like you said, if Rising plays their A game today, they win that in 90.
Yeah.
But it's funny because we were talking mid-game. When was the last time Phoenix Rising won a cup game in 90 on the road, aside from last year's playoff run? And
in a knockout game, they just don't do it.
And we came with 2018 OC.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's more so, if you would have told me they lost this game 2-1 before it started, I would have been like, okay. Yeah. Good result. I mean, in terms of what you were expecting, but it's the way they lost. It's the way you were up 1-0. You know, you were weathering the storm, and now it's all over, and you have to forget about it, move on, because a team Indy, right, just went through the same thing.
Yeah.
A lot of emotions we saw tonight during the game, after the game especially. I mean, these guys are pissed. I'd be pissed too. I mean, Danny was frustrated, right? You have to be. You lost a game that was winnable. They didn't do anything necessarily to lose it. They just didn't take their chances to win it. And I think it's one of those you just look back and goes, what if we capitalize on that chance? You know, what if Remy doesn't lose his balance, right? Like what if Gabby has a little more control in the second half on his run? And it's just what if those moments. And luckily, I think the silver lining in the fact that they have an entire season left to play means that it doesn't necessarily fester the same way if you have to go through an entire offseason just thinking about that.
Yep.
Very much the way Charleston Battery had to, right? And you've seen how they've come out this year, right? They have an edge to them. So maybe that can carry over into the rest of the season and build a fire underneath them. But I mean, it's tough knowing you were like U.S. Open Cup just tweeted out that the bracket's available now, right? Yeah. It's the quarterfinals. And
that's the point that you're at, right?
Rising was right there.
To know as well who you would have in the next round. It's Sacramento away, of course, and that's where Seattle will be going now in the next round of the Cup. To have all that there, and I think to see a path forward and to understand where it could go from here and know just how you could take it from here and not be able to take it from here, that's where the disappointing part is. We see some of you guys there in the chat. Alex, Gollingman Pat, Bandidos Bluebird, comments in there. Gollingman Pat saying offensively this team is bad outside of the PK. What else did they generate? I mean, there were a few chances. We can get into that in a second. Bandidos team battled well, but we're on the back foot most of the second half. Need more options up top and always play our best players. Understandable, of course. I tell you what, we'll have a look at the numbers presented by Desert Financial Credit Union, rated Arizona's #1 credit union by Forbes. The XG there kind of tells the story, does it not? 2.83 for Seattle Sounders compared to 0.96 for Phoenix Rising. Remember, large amount of that for Phoenix Rising. That's going to come from the penalty kick. Possession, Seattle have the edge in that one, 51.1 to 48.9. You look at the shots, 24 shots for Seattle Sounders tonight. That compares to 8 for Phoenix Rising, 7 on target for Seattle, just 2 for Phoenix Rising on the night. And yeah, I mean, those numbers tell a story, right? It's a story, I think, of a team that had its moments in the first half where maybe they could have done a little bit more. I think there were a few opportunities where, and we saw it happen in the second half as well, right? There's a ball up to Rémi, and maybe he should have gotten a shot off or a better shot off and just didn't manage to do so. But ultimately just not really creating enough. They take the lead and then kind of sit back a little bit in the second half. You don't see as much in there, and eventually what you end up seeing instead is Seattle work their way back in, get a penalty of their own, and then, I mean, did we really expect, I think, Rising to win it, come out of anything in 90 in the end? As soon as that penalty went in, anything after that point, did we really see much there that you'd have thought Rising were going to come away taking a result in the 90? I know.
No, and I think the strategy coming in was one of, that the other team is probably better than you.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't necessarily at their best. Rising certainly was not. So I think it was a strategy of just, let's fight, let's survive, let's pick our chances. Maybe we get a penalty. Maybe in the beginning, I made the comment to you, they're going to score on one of these a million corners they had in the first half.
It felt like it because Rising were constantly, again, but the problem is at the end of the day, they didn't really create anything from those corners.
Right.
And they weren't necessarily corners that you look at and say the goalkeeper made a save and it gets put out. It was things like a cross gets blocked and it goes out for a corner, or a cross goes in, really isn't necessarily near anyone, but ends up being played out for a corner by a defender. And those are the kind of moments that create those corners for Phoenix Rising in those moments. It wasn't as they were knocking on the door and knocking on the door, and you felt like, eventually one of these going in, the goalkeeper's playing a blinder, because that isn't what we saw. Look, I think there was heart. I think there was fight in this performance, but I feel as though it was a sloppy performance overall. I don't feel as though what we were looking at was necessarily Phoenix Rising at their best. And look, this game, I think, was to an extent there for the taking today. Seattle did not put their best lineup out there. And they left the opportunity there that Phoenix Rising could have come away with something, but they didn't. And even when you put that kind of, second-tier team out there, as Seattle generally did, you still have to perform on the night to come away with something in a game like this. And unfortunately, it just wasn't there. I think, on the night.
Thinking about it now, if Rising were to go down, I think this is a 3-0 thrashing.
Right.
I just think they get caught out having to bring the game. I think it was always going to be as long as it's tied, we're in it. Right? Because you can always poach one. Yeah. I think that was kind of the thinking coming into it. It's frustrating given that the lineup that they put out made the game. I'm talking about Seattle, made the game from before you even kicked off a possibility, a true possibility that you could go in with the confidence. These guys go into every game thinking they're going to win.
Yeah.
But there are times when you go up against an opponent is better than you. Yeah. But this was not one of those times. So I think that is why there's such disdain and bitter disappointment amongst everyone that we saw coming off the pitch, the ones that we had some slight conversations with, just knowing how frustrated they are because they, at the end of the day, it is an opportunity lost.
Yeah. Well, that's what it feels like, isn't it? Right. It's not a good feeling right now, I think, if you're associated with Phoenix Rising, if you're, the mood right now is pretty dismal coming off of that one, right? Miami was a game that I think showed Rising doing enough to get a result. Wasn't necessarily the best performance we've seen them put in overall, but they were against a pretty dismal side, and it was good enough. Obviously there will be maybe ways and means of questioning certain players. Should they have been taken off earlier in that game? Should they or not have? Should there have been maybe more thought put into quite how they were going to look this game? Did fatigue play a role in this game potentially? Because it was at times quite a frantic and a little bit sloppy, to be honest, at times game as it came together as a whole. And those kind of questions, I guess, are things that they're longer term. They're not so easy to sort out now in terms of breaking it down now and really thinking that through and really coming up with answers. But they're definitely things, I think, in the coming days that we're going to get to.
Yeah, I tweeted before the game about how Seattle had been playing so much. They've literally, they're in the middle of their 4th straight 3-match week. And for those who may not know, they had to call up some of their MLS Next Pro guys just to be on the bench to fill out the roster for this game. So Seattle, while having played a lot more, they weren't playing the guys who have been playing all of these MLS matches. So you got guys who are having inconsistent minutes. They don't have necessarily the continuity. And then, as you said, Owen, Rising wasn't crisp, right? And who knows how much the turf plays? It's a smaller pitch, right? It's roughly the size of Detroit's. So the long diagonal balls weren't going to be like we see Rising do that, and they've been doing that for years. They didn't quite have that. The possession stuff, they going side to side. A lot of that we saw in the back half. And then, there were times where you had some stupid bad turnovers that didn't turn into anything.
No.
But we have seen Rising in the past lose games because of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's just you make a we were talking. You can have the right thought, but the wrong execution. You can get away with that a little bit. But when it's the wrong thought, it's not the right pass. It is the bad idea. That's when stuff goes awry. And that's, I think, what we started seeing a little bit. We saw that from Julio a little bit. I don't know what the hell Patrick Rakovsky was doing when he literally fell down with the ball, got dispossessed in the own box. Didn't lead to anything. But these are the little things where it's just like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Well, these are questions that are going to be buzzing around in the mind. Maybe you need to clear the mind a little bit, right? You want to get some sleep. Ultimately, everyone's going to want to get some sleep tonight, but it may feel like a little bit of a sleepless night, of course. Maybe you're going to go try some of those OGs. Hey, they got the sleep edition. They do have the sleep edition. Have you tried the sleep edition?
I haven't. I could use one tonight.
You could use one tonight. They're actually
PM indicas,
It's. Hey, I'm just saying. I know a lot of people who swear by them. They've also got some new products as well. They've launched 2 new products. One with live rosin and also the RSO. You got the OG's Naturals and the Big OG's Naturals. They're vegan gummies. They're made with live rosin, available in a sweet clementine flavor. Meanwhile, the Big OG's gummy, it's a mega version of the Peg's Raspberry Orange RSO. It's a Rick Simpson oil, one of the company's most popular products. It's rumor has it that's Max is being taking some of the Big OGs, and that might be why he's missing tonight. But it's perforated into 10 slices, each with 10 milligrams of THC for a total of 100 milligrams of THC. So yeah, to learn more about OG's gummies and where you can find them, head to brands.com. OG easybrands.com. Check them out at your local dispensary. Remember, of course, you must be. Of course, maybe it's been a long night. I could do with a snack. Maybe we need to go find ourselves a Circle K. And how do you get discounts on snacks, Jake, at Circle K? How do you sign up for the Inner Circle program? All kinds of discounts on snacks, on gas. Your first 5 fill-ups, you're going to get 25 cents off per gallon. As you move on then as well, you get discounts on other things like those Polar Pops, right down to 69 cents at the moment. Polar Pops for Inner Circle members. If you aren't already a member of the Inner Circle, which we've been talking about for so long now, I'm not sure why you're not. Who doesn't like saving money, right? Go ahead, sign up for the Inner Circle by downloading the Circle K app today. You can check out more information at circlek.com, and of course, only at participating locations. See circlek.com for more details on that one. Right. We've been speaking about our views on the match and the overall views that we've had. Let's have a listen now to the overall views on this match from Phoenix Rising head coach Danny Stone.
I'm incredibly disappointed for the team, honestly. Listen, I thought it was a good game, and I thought we, in general, played well in the game. And I thought for much of the first half were very good, and obviously earned ourselves a goal and a lead at half time. We knew coming out second half that they obviously had to push the game, and they had to to try to generate some more attacking thrust in the game, which they did. And I felt honestly for long spells we coped with that. I thought there was a spell of 15-20 minutes in the second half where we got to grips with the game in possession again and played some very good stuff. And we've had a couple of moments in the second half, I think, where we might have got that second opportunity, maybe that second goal. But I'm honestly gutted for the players, if I'm honest with you, because I felt in general the display was a very, very spirited one. It was a very high level one in many ways. And listen, I haven't seen the penalty decision back against us. I'll have to reserve comment on that one. But I felt, of course we're going to have to see out some spells of pressure in that game. Particularly against a very good team who are 1-0 down in a game, and they have to come at us. And we knew we were going to have to defend the box. We knew we were going to put in some of the grit and the grind in that second half performance. And like I say, honestly, I'm disappointed that we weren't at the very least able to take that to extra time, because I felt the game was a pretty even one, maybe over 90 minutes in terms of how the game is played given a scoreline. So yes, I'm disappointed for the team because I felt they were outstanding in many ways tonight, and we move on quickly now, and we regroup and we recover and we go again Saturday. But listen, we're very disappointed with that tonight, because I felt it would have been, at the very least, maybe deserved to get into extra time and see where the game went from there.
Yeah. So the word from Rising head coach Danny Stone there, feels as though it's just a disappointing one, right? And that was, I think, the general theme running through most of what we had to chat with him about, really, was just look, this is a real gutter. The team battled well, and I understand and don't have any argument with him that I don't think you can go out of this and be mad necessarily at players as though people didn't show up, people didn't try. None of that. I mean, that's just not really valid. I don't think it was their best game, but at the same time, they fought in that game. And when you get yourself out in front in the way that they managed to do, and you go in at the break. I mean, I remember when that penalty was awarded, you just turned to me and said, this is huge. With just the timing and everything, this is huge. You have to be able to go in at the break with that lead. And you just wonder almost if the penalty doesn't happen, if John Stenberg doesn't decide in that moment to stick the arm out a little bit in a way that, is enough, and it is enough, right? There's no arguing on the penalty. There's clear movement outwards. It blocks the shot. It has to be given as a penalty in that moment. But if that doesn't happen, how much longer does Rising have to hold on to maybe then gets to the point where they just believe that they're going to keep pushing through and that they're going to make it, and what kind of a difference that could make? And I mean, even at the end, right? Again, 88th minute to concede a goal and lose a game. It's a gutter.
Yeah, they lost a 50-50 match in which they were winning. Right? You were 45 minutes away from winning, and you're getting nothing for it. And to your point about getting mad at players, I don't think there's anyone you can particularly be upset at or upset with. I mean, as a whole, right? I mean, we were talking about who the hell's the player of the match? Like, who had the best game?
Mm-hmm. No, we couldn't really pull like I think there was a lot of heart and desire to do things, but not a lot of execution. I think throughout the entire game, to be honest, from most people. I mean, who do you go? Mo. I mean, a lot of these guys had good individual moments,
right?
But what they didn't do is pull that together into a complete performance that was really worthy of that kind of a title, right? Maybe Rémi should have done more with some of those opportunities that go through. Maybe You know, I mean, Patrick makes a lot of saves, but at the same time, there was some real issues with certain things that he did that may have resulted in opportunities, to be honest, for Seattle, and got lucky a couple of times. And there's just so much in there then that you could get into that just, it's hard to point to anyone who played particularly well. It's hard to point necessarily to anyone who particularly cost this team. Now, one thing we will want to talk about, and I know it's been brought up in the chat and people are going to talk about it, and this is always going to be a topic of conversation. When this lineup came out, obviously we look at it and go, okay, taking this seriously, but there's one real change in there that you just say, if you asked Phoenix Rising to put out their best team, you probably wouldn't have picked Patrick Rakovsky to start over Rocco Rios-Novo. Let's have a listen now to what Phoenix Rising head coach Danny Stone had to say on that decision to go with Patrick over Rocco.
Yeah, always factor in between every player. Honestly, I mean, we look at each game as we feel is the best choice, dependent on the players and the situation. And listen, we have absolute trust in Patrick, same as anybody else in the squad. I've said this many times. We have whoever we put on the field, whichever 11 we play. We're very confident and comfortable that we have 11 very good players on the field. And Patrick, Rocco is no different. Whoever plays, and obviously Rocco's played majority of the games to this point. Patrick played very well in the last round in Carolina, and he's a very high level goalkeeper as well. So there's no concern about whoever starts on the field in any of the positions, and the goalkeeper being the same.
All right, I'll put it this way now. Good moments, bad moments obviously happened there for Patrick in that game. And look, it's a complicated one because you never know, and we'll never know, right, if Rocco would have saved the penalty, if Rocco would have saved the second goal. We will never be able to.
I don't think anybody saves the second goal.
No, okay. That's perfectly fair, right? But we will never know those kind of things. What I will say is, broadly speaking, if you were to ask me if you're going to distribute the ball out of the back, who is going to do a better job of it, there's not really a question in that one. It's Rocco Rios-Novo,
and it's again, and
there's a reason he's the starter normally.
And remember the way that this all got put out as, we're not saying Patrick Rakovsky is a bad goalkeeper. Rocco Rios-Novo is just better.
Substantially better.
He is an under 23 Argentina goalkeeper. But I mean, you also, I mean, I'm not, Rocco's not on the actual national team, but you saw how important Emi Martinez was to that team.
Yeah.
Like,
and more importantly, I mean, you know what he does with penalties. Look, again, if the game gets
penalties,
to that point,
playing out the back,
distribution, just
commanding your defense.
Exactly.
It's hard because we couldn't really hear. So,
no, I know.
So we don't really know if there was.
But there's also relationships in there that come down to it when you're looking at things like who is going to come out for balls at certain times, who's going to come out at times where you're able to, have that communication with the defense. A guy who is playing week in, week out with them is going to have better communication with the defense.
Right.
That's not anything particularly controversial. Again, can you point at it and say the result would have been different? No, you can't. It's a hypothetical. Can you also look at it and say that I think if you wanted to take this game seriously as you could, and knowing now especially the opportunity that was given to you by the team that Seattle chose to play with today, and the fact that it opened up that opportunity that you could go out there and get a result today, I don't think it's a decision that realistically it was probably the right one in that moment. And again, I understand the need for backup goalkeepers to get some minutes. You don't want them not to play ever. But in a game of this magnitude, which was in the end a winnable game, any decision that weakens your squad unnecessarily is always going to be scrutinized in this kind of way. And it's always going to be one of those ones that now Rising fans will look back at this game and say, what if Rocco Rios-Novo plays today instead of Patrick Rakovsky? We won't know. We will never know the answer to that one. But to leave that doubt hanging is probably where the worry is. Because again, we all know, and it's not controversial, it's not up for debate, Rocco Rios-Novo is the best goalkeeper on this squad.
Right. I guess my only rebuttal to that would be, and again, it can change the flow of the game, but their problem tonight was going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if changing the goalkeeper,
while true, I'll make a slight counter. There were times where they felt sloppy out of the back.
Yes.
And I feel that they invited more pressure on themselves than needed at times and failed to distribute as well from the back, because I think there are just certain things that either Rakovsky's not seeing as well as Rocco is able to pick out, just because Rocco is so confident with the ball at his feet. And also just the additional number it gives you, right? These things become a numbers game, especially as you're possessing the ball. And that's why so many teams are looking to these kind of goalkeepers, because it gives you that advantage in numbers when you can add that person to the back line and maybe send someone else and you've got an extra number, an extra body going forward. That's kind of where I'd look at that. And again, I understand though, right? It is the forward. The forward is the issue, and I mean the forward play is the issue by and large.
Putting the ball in the back of the net, not Rémi Cabral. Rémi Cabral,
no, exactly.
Can't really do much.
Well, it's
more.
a combination of service and a couple of opportunities that maybe should have been done better with, but you're not talking of the most clear-cut opportunities like missing sitters at all.
Right.
It's just a messy one. I mean, again, you're in a position where you had Federico Varela started the last game. Rémi Cabral, obviously, in the situation that Rising is currently in, with Darius Formella not with the squad, is starting again today. And he's getting a lot of minutes under his legs, and it'll be intriguing to see what has to happen now in Indy. Will he be able to go in that game? Because, again, he's played a lot of minutes very recently. As you look at other things there, such as, Panos Armanakis, again, we know that he's struggled with injuries in recent times and being left to play for as long as he did against Miami FC. And that's one of those ones where I think, again, you kind of look back a little bit at the last game and think, could maybe certain things have been done a little bit different? Maybe would that have impacted in this game if you had a more rested, a more fresh Panos, especially knowing that fitness hasn't been the easiest thing for him recently because of injury. I don't know.
It's definitely possible.
It's a whole laundry list of small little things,
the little wins
that
add up.
Maybe you don't change. Maybe changing one of them doesn't do any real impact on what happens tonight. But if this changes, that changes, something else changes, you get there. I mean, I do see Bandidos Blue, to be fair, in here with forward play has been an issue all season. I'd agree. I think Remy is a very good poacher, and we know how Remy plays. The problem you have is always consistency of service, and the fact that you don't as easily have people who are on form right now, or literally physically here right now, able to maybe change up the playing style a little bit there as well. So, there's a lot of things to contemplate there, a lot of different things that you need to have a think about, but if you want to contemplate them and think about them, maybe you can contemplate and think about those over a beer at Valley Taproom. Valley Taproom, they've got two locations now, the opening of their new Queen Creek location, along with the original spot in Gilbert. All kinds of fun stuff happening there. We're going to have to get down there for trivia again at some point. We're not going to let Max, and if you're still in the chat, Max, I am talking to you. Max Simpson. You're not the reason we win trivia there. Although he does contribute a little bit, to be fair. But we're going to have to get back there for some trivia. It's always a fun time when we get there. 30 different beer handles there. All good stuff. All different kinds of beers. Whatever you drink, you're going to find something. They also have wines. They've got bottled beers as well. And, they have some fun stuff on weekends as well. They'll get food trucks out. They've got a bar menu they're going as well. It's always a good time. Go check them out on socials and make sure to go and grab a drink down at Valley Taproom when you get the chance. And, if you're going to have a beer, of course, you've also got the opportunity, they have them at Valley Taproom and many other places, grocery stores, probably at Circle K as well. And, of course, at their 8th Street pub, it's Four Peaks, Arizona's hometown brewery. And, honestly, I could very much do with one of the Bad Birdie Juicy Golden Ale right now, because I could do with a do with a beer, to be honest, after watching that.
Someone can let me know if
nights.
OG's is in Washington State.
I don't believe, unfortunately. I don't believe,
It's
unfortunately.
definitely legal here.
One of those nights. But I mean, I'd be on the Bad Birdie Juicy Golden Ale, which is really nice. I know I've said this a lot recently, but I really mean it when I say it's probably outpaced the wow for me in terms of the top 4 Peaks beer. And I always enjoy it. I had a few cans in the fridge over the weekend. Got to celebrate a win with those. Wouldn't be able to do so tonight, but could commiserate a loss with some of those Bad Birdie cans. And of course, you can get it at the 8th Street Pub as well. So go ahead, check them out on socials at 4 Peaks Pub for the pub, and check out all the kind of stuff that they've got going on. And yeah, remember, of course, if you're going to enjoy 4 Peaks, you must be 21 years or older to enjoy responsibly. Right. We're coming towards the conclusion of this one, I think. Obviously, there were a couple of other Open Cup games earlier today. They weren't really the most competitive as fixtures. The train goes past us over there. There was the other one there that was 2-1. Of course, FC Dallas with some early goals against Tampa Bay Rowdies. And then Tampa Bay get one back late.
Former Phoenix Rising, Joshua Perez.
Yeah, it's a familiar face. And then Indy 11 went 3 up at the break against Detroit City FC. Indy end up holding on to that scoreline, finishes 3-0. So as you look to the next round of the US Open Cup out west, the fixtures will focus on those ones. It's going to be Seattle Sounders going to Sacramento Republic. The other side of that, you have LAFC hosting New Mexico United. And then for the semifinal, the winner of the game involving Sacramento and Seattle will host the winner of the game involving LA and New Mexico. Feels a bit bittersweet. I think we were, especially at halftime, thinking about
going back to Sac.
Yeah, we were, weren't we? We were thinking about it.
And the possibility of hosting in the semi.
Yeah.
It was tangible for about 15 minutes.
It felt it, didn't it? It felt like it could happen.
And then as I think about it now, did Rising deserve to win this game? I don't think so.
I don't think they deserve.
But they definitely feel hard done by losing in 90. At the death too.
I think that's true. I think that's fair. Right. Well, have a quick last look at the chat, and again, everyone in there. Max popped in briefly to say hello, and then Max didn't pop in again. Well, shout out Kyle, who hopped in the chat as well. Reese was in there, our stat lackey, of course. Thanks for the little assist today, throwing in the numbers over to our producer Shane, helping us out as usual, and a few other guys. D Gully Man Pat, thank you guys. It's been a night. It's not been the most fun road trip, I think.
Are you gonna wear a suit again?
Maybe not. Maybe this is
what's your record with the jacket and tie? This your first game with it?
I think it is my first game with it. So yeah, we're not doing that again.
Winless.
It's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a while
in Open Cup. In Open, what about league play?
I don't think I've done it in league play.
It's never. Well,
yeah.
You're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait a few months to pull that out.
Oh yeah. Well, it's gonna be a while. Let's just say the suit isn't coming out in full like this for a while. But hey,
Max, I blame you. We wore the same ties we wore at the final.
Max, we're blaming Max. Max should have been here. Maybe if Max was here, they'd have done it.
Last time the three of us went, they won in penalties.
Exactly. Well, maybe they would have, but it's not been the most fun away trip. But of course, you can have a more fun away trip. Our PHNX Cardinals gang, they're getting ready for a trip coming up in the new NFL season. They'll be heading over to Miami, taking the Cardinals, taking on the Dolphins. Are teaming up with True Fan Travel for an unforgettable experience in Miami for that game over at Hard Rock Stadium. The trip package includes round-trip flights to Miami, charter bus transfers, a hotel stay at a popular Miami hotel, welcome event, meet and greet with Cardinals alumni, an all-inclusive tailgate party, round-trip transportation to the game, and of course, your game tickets, the Cardinals against the Dolphins. You can head over now to truefantravel.com to get all of the details and reach out with any questions that you do have. There'll also be limited tailgate only and ticket and tailgate packages that come out later in the year. But if you want to go, make sure to go over now put in your deposit. Of course, more information will come out on that in the very near future, and those deposits are, for the moment, refundable based on, through the end of the month. So head over to truefantravel.com/trips to book your spot today and be on the lookout for more road trips brought to you by True Fan Travel. Signups for these road trips are live while spots last. Right. I'm ready to call it a night. You ready to call it a night, Jake?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been one of those nights, and we're just going to call it a night at this point. So remember, you can, of course, follow us on socials. Follow the pod at PHNX__rising, because the underscores, we're not doing anything else. It's
double the goals allowed in the second half.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks. Keeping the tone upbeat. You can follow me on Twitter at OJEvans18, Jake at JWA994. You can follow our producer Shane at Shane D. You can follow Stat Lucky. Yeah.
We all silly like the mayor.